my pleasure today to come over to BCA and invited by my colleagues from the Building Resilience Group, Tanapal, Archie, and fellow colleagues to share all the use cases that have helped them in the past almost 10 over years. Yeah. Let me briefly describe to you where I come from. The USS-IEO is actually very mouthful. It stands for Urban Solutions and Sustainability Innovations and Enterprise Office. We're actually a national platform hosted at A-Star. Now, we are technologies and platform agnostic. Now, why I say this is because we are actually funded by National Research Foundation to support two ministries, MND and MSE, to scale their R&D projects from some of the applied research stage all the way to prioritizations and commercialization phase. And in so doing, we actually talk to research performers that cut across all the areas, from universities to Center of Innovations at the various polytechnics and even ITE, TDC, to help them to spin off some of these ready-to-go technologies and profitable enough to support the commercial parties in the user enterprises. And in doing so, we are also recognized that it is important for them to understand what are the pain points faced by the various owners or drivers in the lead demand agency to better understand how they can elevate the pain points and challenges by offering cost-effective and tangible products and solutioning to solve the issues on the ground. So in short, we are actually the catalyst that help them to string up all the challenges that cut across these two ministries. All right. My team is actually focused on the urban system, falls under the built environment sector. Now, you have heard a lot just now when our colleagues from the various institutions, including even BCA, has talked about some of these companies like Novaspeed, Spin-off Robotics, Maya's Lab, etc. Now, all these startup companies, SME companies, they are trying to struggle to find customers, to find user enterprises that will be able to fit into their technologies that they offer. Now, USS-IEO come in to facilitate, to help them understand what are exactly the pain points faced by the user enterprises in the built environment sector. Be it, is there a need for them to do DIT-TAT integration? Is there a need for the TAT to talk to one another before they can offer cost-effective solutions for the user enterprises? So we step in to help to identify companies like Spin-off Robotics. It is actually a startup from SUTD. What has it got to do with PFI or PSI? They have nothing to do. They were actually trying to solve pressure washing for external facade cleaning. But the use case ideally fit into the PFI offered by Novaspeed, which Novaspeed helped them to cultivate and incubate with capabilities development for the PFI regime that they are servicing their clients, which are the consultant like Lee Consultant or other kind of facade inspectors companies. So Spin-off Robotics actually transfer their assets from the university to support Novaspeed use cases in the commercial field. And in so doing, they are able to find customers from Marina Barrage, LTA, and furthermore, other environmental services company. And they are, in doing so, they are able to do inspections for LTA, for bridge bearing, Marina Barrage for pressure washing, at the same time also identify is there any PFI issue. External facade, when there's made of glass or aluminum cladding, are they able to use DIT-TAT technologies to identify where are the water ingress, corrosion, etc., to support the PFI and PSI inspection regime that is required by the building owners and the assets or the properties owner. And in doing so, the go-to-market or commercialization strategy was ideally fit in for Spin-off to be able to do first commercial deal and sales. So as a startup, do they feel happy? Of course, they will be very excited because they will be able to clinch the customers from the built environment sector. And for Novaspeed, it is even better because they can spend more time with their clients to better understand what are the problem challenges while they lead some of this DIT-TAT development with Spin-off Robotics who can support their platform in using AI, which is very often than not very difficult to, to develop. So USS-IEO also come in to support another use case, which is actually the use case by the Maya's Lab, all right, where we actually help to look into. So another use case is by Maya's Lab, where Mr. Neo Kim Han, my colleague from HDB, has exemplified the use case where A-Star spin-off Maya's Lab is able to develop this, autonomous mobile devices that they can climb into confined and dark dim spaces to inspect those internal structural integrity. They were actually being scouted by me because I have some use cases from NEA colleagues that were trying to deploy for vector control. Now, vector control is very often than not, we are talking about rodents, mouse trap issues, and they cut off wires where you can impact the whole entire properties where your 5G, 4G connection is being cut off. So these are very expensive use cases where before the engineers can come in to do the rectification or restoration, you need to inspect to find out what's going on in the confined space. Therefore, MySlab autonomous mobile robot was able to help HDB and some of the property owner to identify where are some of these sweet spots that they need to restore or identified with the integrated facility management companies before the engineers actually come in to patch it up. So importantly, how do we recognize some of these use cases? It is important that we talk to the building owner, to the FM companies or the estate management companies on the ground to understand their pain points and what exactly do they want to use the tech for? Are they able to communicate with the tech companies? Are they able to understand the tech or the service provider who are supporting their day-to-day ops and maintenance? So USS-IEO come in with a catalyst to connect the dots, to bring all the companies together, be it from the research from the companies or from the institution level, all the way to the end users in the institution. All right. And moving on, we will be also moving upstream to support the use case owners in the various ministries and the driver from the end user and companies, the user enterprises and companies, to better understand how we can help them to create their challenges statements more accurately so that it will give a clearer visions and missions to the researchers who are actually performing the deep tech development using AI platform. And in so doing, we will be also helping them to identify what are the core technologies that are importantly be able to help to address the problem statements faced by the user enterprises in the industry side. Companies like Lee Consultants and some of the facade inspector, they are not able to, to be able to articulate what exactly they want in the technologies. All right, we are just doing tech push. But the market pull is more than important to be able to help them to understand how efficacy of the technologies we introduce to them is able to identify, to fill the gap. And then downstream, we are also trying to influence the partnership. If we can marry startup and spin-off from the institution or from poly, from universities with the institutions in the other side of the house, which is the institution that house in the companies or industry, and they can save costs in doing R&D to proliferate and customize further, why not? All right. End of the day, it also helps the drivers from the user enterprises or the lead agency to be able to serve our residents and our citizens better. So the playbook for commercialization is quite straightforward. USS-IEO actually play the catalyst role, the facilitator and the connector role to be able to bridge from the fundamental applied research to scaling, productization, refinement, and be able to do the first commercial sale. All right, to be able to help companies to strike this first commercial sales where they are able to convince the property or the building owner that technology push is actually one part of it. More importantly is to know how to use it and where to use it, who to use it. So the trainer cost by the integrated facility management companies is also equally important. If the building owners are not able to convince the integrated FM company, there's no point to push out the technology to them. They will just buy the equipment or machinery or the autonomous mobile device and then just park it inside their warehouse. It becomes a white elephant. So importantly, they must try to augment their services together in a clusters of properties or building and try it out in small scale. Convince them that the report they generated with AI or not is quality enough to submit to the authority for restorations and patchback. Then it will give a greater confidence for companies to be able to scale further. All right. Now, A-Star and USS-IEO, which is housed within A-Star, we also use other kind of tools and scheme to support further for companies who struggle because of resources or constraint of manpower. So what we do is that we sometimes identify, are there good scientists and good researchers out there in the institution or even polytechnic level that can offer them expertise to help them to scale their know-how or transfer knowledge to their companies for business transformation. So these are schemes such as T-Out Secondment, All right, and then under some of the agency, we do have gap funding that we can help to support to scale up projects that qualify for the various entities that offer to support the companies in their transformation journey. At the same time, we also talk to our enterprise SG colleague, all right, to offer them some of the schemes that will be able to do the commercialization. So last but not least, this will be my last slide. I just want to sum up that as a catalyst, we do help to support applied research, all right, from R&D stage all the way to go to the market. In doing so, we will identify and leverage on capabilities of the various Center of Innovations that house in polytechnics, universities, and agency level to see how we can bring them to go near to the industry side to better articulate the challenge statements fronted by the enterprises. At the same time, we also try to capture the value which is developed by government-funded project and not let the IP lost. All right, we need to build in-country capabilities. In totality, we build innovations capabilities for the Singapore market, but more importantly, we need to allow our enterprises in the built environment sector feels and understood that technology is here to stay. If we don't do it now, we will lose out to other competitors out there, not just within Singapore, but the regional. Last but not least, we do work with various associations, trade associations such as the Singapore Standard Council, SIGMA, SCALE, etc., including even RUMAS, to better understand how we can support their members' organization to create better awareness. So session today is like Tech Exchange. In fact, this evening, we're also doing another sharing with our RUMAS colleague, to help them understand how technology push is one of the possibility, but more importantly, we help to patch up in terms of understanding the market pool and create the sweet spot to marry the two together. All right, thank you very much for everybody's time, and that will end my sharing today.